Hello, Libby Gray here again, continuing a short series on how to call follow spots for live rock shows. I am a little shaggy today and a little sunburnt. We're coming along in the middle of the summer tour right now. Everybody's getting a little shaggy. Yesterday we played a venue that will remain nameless in the middle of California that doesn't have a roof, just pop-up tents over front of house where they invariably seem to remove them before the sun has set, leaving the engineers and the gear to bake. Super fun. Yay. By a locals estimate, it was also 112 degrees yesterday. Super fun. So today I have a much needed day off in San Diego, where the weather is spectacular, as it usually is in San Diego, and I'm at a nice hotel and I've got a view of the harbor out my window, so I'm happy with all of these things. This, if you are keeping track, would be our 5th short segment on follow spot calling. And the topic today is one that I've given a lot of thought to. There's a lot to cover and I don't want to make it too wordy. I suppose the subject and title of this particular video should simply be, "Don't be a douchebag to the follow spots." Really, that sums up the whole point of this conversation. But to go into a little more detail, follow spots are not borrowed mules. Don't treat them that way. Yes, some of them are going to be great, and some of them are going to be terrible. And there is very little as frustrating as calling a clean show with 6 excellent operators and one who blows every single blackout, because you're only as good as your worst operator. But the other spots on headset also know that. And cursing out the guy who's dragging down the overall quality of the show is actually not going to make you any friends among the operators. You are a leader. You have to be a leader. It is your job as the director of a show to bring along your follow spots, to elevate the performance of the worst of them without insulting or boring the best of them. That's a fine line to walk, admittedly. But don't cuss. Just don't curse them out. Yes, have I dropped the F-bomb on headset? Certainly, but it's usually directed at a band member. Like, what the fuck is he doing over there? But you fucking so-and-so directed at a follow spot? Never once in my life. My mentors taught me early on that's bad form. It's just plain rude. It's inexcusable. It's unprofessional. And here's the kicker. It never helps the show. There is not one problem I have encountered on headset where screaming at someone actually fixes it. You're not going to help them perform better. Seriously, consider these 2 phrases. Spot 3. That's the 4th time you've lagged on the blackouts. I really need to ask you to tighten up your game. Try and make that a lot sharper and cleaner going forward. Or, Spot 3, are you a fucking idiot? Everybody else here seems on headset seems to be able to make their blackouts and you can't. Get your shit together. Now I ask you, which of those 2 statements do you think is engineered to get a better performance out of Spot 3 on the next blackout? Here's a hint. If you think it's the second phrase, you're in the wrong job, because our job is to be leaders and managers and to bring out the best behavior in people, and abusing them on headset will never accomplish that. Here's what it will do. It will give you a bad reputation. It will sullen the other spots. Not sure that's a verb. Should be. It will make them resentful. And it will also damage your reputation ultimately with your band. On the road, we are a tribe. Your crew. We are a family. Psst. So are the follow spots. They're part of a local tribe and family. And if you are unnecessarily, inappropriately abusing one of them, however poor their performance may be, they will rally around the victim, rather than if you try and bring along a spot who's doing a terrible job, make the cues easier, give them more lead time, keep giving the corrections, maintain a professional demeanor. I've had them come up to me after the show 1,000,000 times and say, "Oh, well, I'm really sorry about, Bobby. I don't know what was going on. He's not very good at this." You can make them your allies, even when one of their own is poisoning the well. But if you abuse one of them, you will get a united front against you. You will not have a better show for it. And You won't help the show. Like I said, you won't help your reputation, and ultimately you won't help your band's reputation. Remember, the follow spots are the only local crew who actually see the show. So, if you're on headsets screaming a blue streak all show at them, doesn't matter how great the show was, what they're going to tell their buddies backstage and their crew chief and their BA and anyone else who listens, they're going to say, well, the show was okay, but that LD is a real piece of work. And you'll also have a harder time getting quality spots to take your call the next time you come through. So by all means, curse at them if you never expect to work with these people again. Think about it. If you're doing this strictly from a mercenary standpoint, avoiding the fact that everyone deserves your respect and everyone is a human being trying to do their best, if you want to put that away, just look at what's good for your show. All right? Don't curse at your spot ops. Doesn't help them, doesn't help you, and it will bite you in the ass in the long run. You will have people who refuse to take your show. On the other hand, I have been lucky enough over the years to try and speak respectfully to my spots, and all the time I have operators who have specifically said, I heard your band was coming back and I know you're with them, so I wanted to do this show. I like your call. I'm happy to work with you. That's the kind of reputation you want, and it will help you get a better performance for your band's sake, which is, at the end of the day, is kind of your job. Sometimes you will have to dismiss a spot. It happens. Sometimes it happens. And there are ways to approach that professionally. And again, ways to be a douchebag about it. Don't be a douchebag. Here's how you fire a spot. This is assuming you are well into the show. Nobody gets bounced in the first 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 songs. At this point, you've figured out this spot is irredeemable. You've already ruled out intercom failure is not the problem. Fixture failure is not the problem. Maybe it's someone who doesn't actually know how to operate the light. Maybe, who cares? Doesn't matter. They're poisoning your show. You figure out you've got to let them go. You discreetly send a message backstage, either via text or on your radio with your mic off to the headsets, that says, is there another operator we can send up there to spot 2? This isn't going to work tonight. Whether there's a replacement or not, you don't fire an operator unless you are sure that you are better off without them, without anybody on that spot. Just assume there's not going to be a replacement. So don't fire them unless they're so bad that you're better off without them, and here's what you say. Spot 2, I'm sorry. This isn't working out tonight. This clearly isn't your night. I appreciate you're trying to give it a best effort, but you are hurting me more than you're helping me. I have to ask you to turn off your light and leave your position. I'm not kidding, Spot 2. Shut off your light. That's a go. You're dismissed from the call. Please report back to your crew chief. And if they still don't do it, Spot 2, I'm not playing with you. Shut your light off. We're done here. Leave, please. They'll figure it out eventually and they'll go. None of that involves cursing. None of that involves blame, pointing, fingers, all that. Your job at that point is just to get them off the light. However, that should be exceedingly rare. If you find you are firing a follow spot more than once every 5 years, here's a hint. The problem is not upstairs. Enough about that. I did have a follow spot the other night who was really entertaining because we've known each other for many years, and he took the call and he showed up and he said, I remember when I was terrible when I started and you were short-tempered, and I remember you just cussing me out, which is incredibly funny to me because I know I never cussed anybody out. My particular mentor on follow spots, the late great David Finley, would roll over in his grave if he ever heard I was cussing at a follow spot, and I also wasn't raised that way. It doesn't come to me. But I was really glad to hear that, and here's why. Counterintuitively, the fact that he remembered that I had cussed him out, or he thought he remembered that I had actually cursed at him, tells me that I was able very clearly to express disappointment, frustration, maybe even outrage, maybe even anger. But I did it without cursing, because I know I don't curse at spot ops. The fact that he thought I did was great, and it should serve as a point, as an example of how you can get done and get across the same message you can with cursing, but without actually cursing at people. So, again, it's about leadership. It's about respect. Respect is earned. So earn it. And nobody ever takes a spot call to ruin your show. Nobody does it. They take spot calls for 3 reasons, basically. 1, it pays slightly better in most markets. A few, it pays a lot better. 2, they like the music. And 3, they want to have a creative input into the show, however removed it may be. So none of those reasons is compatible with deliberately sabotaging your show. Nobody says, oh man, I really like this band, I'm going to take a spot call and then really fuck up their show as bad as I... Nobody does that. Everybody takes the call because they want to do well. If they only took it for the money, they want to do well because they want to be put on another spot call. If they took it because they love the band or because they want creative input, it's self-explanatory that they are not going to deliberately hurt you. So keep that in mind as well. They are a volunteer force, your job to lead them, and they are there to try and do the best they can. Sometimes they're going to suck, sometimes they're going to be great. We've talked about how they suck, we've talked about ways to fire them. Let's think about the ways that they can really help you. If you get out of the way, a really good follow spot operator can actually elevate your show. They can make it better. And they do this several ways. Some spot ops have a really great gift, and we're talking about the experienced veterans, a great gift for timing their fade outs to the music. If that's what you want, and you ask for it, some of those guys will do a brilliant job because bands fade out at different rates, and your console is going to count 3 and be out if you wrote that as a 3-count fade out. If you've got your intensity on a master, great, you can throttle it gradually. But a spot op can do the same thing every night. So they can give you more elegant fade outs than you might otherwise have. A follow spot also can adjust its size as your guy runs across the stage. Most moving lights can't do that. I imagine, hypothetically, there is a system by which a laser could target the artist and measure the distance to them and compensate by automatically adjusting its iris size. I'm sure technically it's feasible. That system may exist, but I haven't heard about it. But a spot op will do that every night without even thinking about it. If you tell them you want a 3/4 shot size and your guy runs across the stage and their light gets bigger because the inverse square law is a bitch, they will automatically shrink their size down. It's really good. If your artist is standing next to the very edge of a video panel, a good operator will sneak their light off that video panel. No moving light in the world is going to do that by itself. And finally, for emergencies, an operator understands things that no technology can. If an artist abruptly has a fall or turns their back to the audience and you've set this up in advance or suddenly runs off stage, your operator can do what you've directed them to do. Now, maybe you've asked them not to fade out. Sometimes I do that. But a good operator can see an emergency or an unexpected thing going down on stage and save you from that. You're watching 10 guys on stage. You can't watch them all with chameleon bug eyes every second. One of them suddenly vanishes behind the set. A skilled operator, if told to in advance, can simply gently fade out and reacquire them as they re-enter. That's the kind of way a follow spot can elevate your show. So by all means, look for the experienced operators. Think about how you can lean on them. They will make your show better if you let them. These are things they can do. So appreciate a great operator when you get them. And that's pretty much enough talking about the good and the bads of individual operators for today. So be nice, be kind, be a leader, be professional. You will get a better show out of your team. And having said all that, we'll talk another time. Thanks.